Imagine spending every Saturday night in Malibu. But beware, there's trouble in paradise.
Teddy's house is on fire!
Next time, let them take the fall.
From the producer of Melrose Place and 90210.
Too intense for you.
Malibu Shores, March 9th on NBC.
Well, from that promo, you probably expect a lot of action, a lot of drama, some fire, maybe an explosion. And if you are, I'm sorry to say, your hopes will be dashed. While the pilot of Malibu Shores possibly sets all that up as something that, it's going to happen, it fails to deliver on that promise. But more on that later. In order to properly talk about this show, I have to take a little bit of a step back. Malibu Shores aired for 10 episodes during the spring of 1996 as a mid-season replacement. It starred a post-Mickey Mouse Club but pre-Felicity Keri Russell and her Mickey Mouse Club co-star Tony Luca. Basically, think of this show as Romeo and Juliet meets West Side Story, or at least that's what we're supposed to believe. Malibu Shores starts off by introducing us to some random characters running around a house trying to escape a fire. They're met by some other characters, and we get a random voiceover from soon-to-be known main character Chloe.
Who would have thought things could go this far? I mean, I only met Zach 8 days ago, that night at Ashley's party. Zach lives in the valley, and I live in Malibu. I mean, it's only 18 miles between them, but in reality, they're worlds apart.
By the way, I call it a random voiceover because we never have another one of these again. This is the only time we have this voiceover, and I know what it's there for. It's supposed to entice us to watch. We want to know what happened over the past 8 days that led to this fire. But it's the only time it's used, so it's kind of weird. We then begin our flashback where we meet the Zach in question, Zach Morrison. Now, I like to point out that he's unfortunately named because all I keep thinking about every time I see him is Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, and I half expect a annoying blonde character who takes advantage of their friends to pop out of nowhere, which is kind of weird. But this Zach has the personality of wet cardboard, so it's, not much better. Anyways, we meet Zach and his friends who are skateboarding. They get in trouble with the security guard, but really their introduction is to give us a lot of explanatory dialogue as to, who they are and what's going on in their lives.
Man, get your stinking feet off my dash. It took me 3 years to earn the money to cherry out this car. Don't thrash it.
Sorry, bro, I zoned.
Then what's the problem? Let's roll. Man, I just don't want to end up like that guy.
Then who done? Hey, drop us off at the arcade on your way to work.
Yeah, all right, well, don't forget, we hit the beach later.
Yeah! The beach!
When we cut to Chloe, we meet her and her friend Nina who are getting ready for mean girl Ashley's party on the beach. I guess it's Ashley's birthday or something. They are going to that along with Chloe's brother Josh. Now, Chloe and Nina aren't exactly popular, but when they get there, Chloe particularly attracts the attention of Ashley and her friend Bree, who kind of want to bring Chloe into their group. They want her to be part of the popular crowd.
Well, look who bought a body over the summer. Is that Chloe Walker?
Man, did she morph?
Bet she's still a brainer. Her brother is totally cool. Maybe she has some latent potential.
At the same time as this party is going on, Zach and his friends arrive at the beach where they begin a bonfire, and the party is probably about 10 feet in the other direction. There's a bit of tension between the two groups, but nothing major because they're each on their side of the beach. Chloe decides to go for a walk, and that's where she meets Zach. Now, you think at this point we're going to have this really adorable meet cute or something that's just really, really memorable. Like, when they set this up of them seeing each other and interacting, I thought it was going to be something like the OC with the, who are you, wherever you want me to be thing, right? This is not that. This is far from that.
I'd better get back to my friends.
Why don't you, make a new friend? Who's Zach?
I'm Chloe.
Chloe. Can't say I've ever met a Chloe.
What's wrong with Chloe?
What? It's beautiful.
So with that disappointing introduction, Zach and Chloe talk a bit, and then Chloe goes back to the party. Eventually, of course, the two groups have to have a fight. Someone gets pushed into a cake.
Oh, and it's over.
Josh, let it go! Come on!
No! Oh, yeah? You bastard!
Mike, hey!
Someone hands Josh a knife. I actually think it's Chloe and Nina's friend Teddy, a fellow outcast who tags along. Josh and Zach get arrested, and Zach spends the night in jail while Josh kind of gets out of it early thanks to his mom, Suki's lawyering abilities. So, anyways, they both go home. They both get scolded by their parents. Zach, in particular, gets told by his parents that he is getting into too much trouble. It's his friend's fault that this is happening to him, and so he has to transfer schools. They send him to live with his sister in Malibu, and of course, he gets sent to Chloe's school.
Oh my god, look at those substandard shoes. Oh no.
Main storyline between Chloe and Zach is that people don't want them to be together and they want to be together. And there's a lot of fighting regarding that. So that's kind of how their storyline plays out for the rest of the episode. But there's lots of other things that are going on as well. So Josh is being a very overbearing big brother. It hints throughout the episode that he has an alcohol problem, and is basically drunk most of the time. And so he basically spends the entire episode fighting with Zach and getting in fights with Zach and going on high speed chases with Zach. Um, and he also hooks up with Nina, Chloe's friend. Nina desperately wants to be part of the popular crowd, so he takes a dare from Ashley, Bree, and their other friend Julie, and she decides that she's going to sleep with the first guy that she comes up to or that she meets, I guess, at an upcoming party. And she decides that that person's going to be Josh. So they sleep together, and then Teddy walks in on it, and well, doesn't walk in on it, but he walks in afterwards. And Teddy kind of likes Nina, but he's also going through his own stuff. So his storyline throughout the episode is that his dad is extremely neglectful. His mom has passed away. His dad has a new girlfriend, and he basically isn't getting the attention he needs from his father. So he's feeling alone. He doesn't really have a lot of friends, and he realizes that Nina doesn't really like him in that way. So he has a lot going on as well. Um, so while all this is happening, we eventually find out that fire at the beginning was caused by Teddy, basically because his dad ignored him. That was his way of getting attention, was to burn down a house. Burning Chloe and Zach. Um, Chloe has been they've been kind of trying to find each other through the latter part of the pilot, and they decide to meet at this spot, or he gets a note to her. He leaves a note for her at this spot, and she goes up to find it, bringing Josh and Teddy along just because she tells him that she's doing something else. But I mean, like they're there with you, so they're gonna find out what's happening. But anyways, so she finds the note. Teddy confronts her about it. Josh, who has been drinking in the car, also finds out about it. They get in an argument, and then he and Teddy speed off. And after they speed off, they get into a car accident. They both end up with injuries. Both are okay though. Josh realizes that he has a drinking problem, and Teddy reconnects with his dad, who both promise to do better. And his dad especially promises to, um, pay more attention to his son. So the way this pilot is set up and the way it was written is it's originally supposed to be a 2-hour movie, just a movie, that was it. So what happened in the last few minutes is they set up kind of the storyline or the suspected storyline for the next few episodes, which is that there's an earthquake that destroys the school in the valley, which causes everybody, including Zach and his friends, to be brought into the Malibu school where Chloe is, because they now don't have a school. So basically, both sides, um, the Valley kids and the Malibu kids have been brought together, even though they don't want to be, because one of them doesn't have a school. So yeah, so that kind of is where the episode ends. And what it sets up is a storyline of us and them, two different worlds coming together, lots of clashes. You expect there's going to be like people interfering with, school life and the way it was, and it's going to be a lot of like maybe people still not liking Chloe and Zach together, so that's going to be a point of contention, and basically setting up a lot of like conflict. Well, to be fair, the show tries to show a bit of that, but it seems like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. So, what the show kind of falls into is this idea of wanting to just be drama for the sake of drama, but also wanting to tackle important issues. And then what ends up happening is neither are properly explored, or they're kind of just given a half-assed attempt, and it's not really focused on. So, for example, in the episode that follows the pilot, uh, we deal with a bit of bullying and a bit of racism regarding Zach's ex-girlfriend, Casey, who is basically being bullied and teased by she and her friends. She is looking for some help, some advice from Zach because he is her closest confidant. I mean, they did date, but they are still friends, and she just wants to talk to someone. She's dealing with a lot, and she feels alone. Zach is kind of fits in with Chloe, and she feels like she has no one.
You've read of Mice and Men over 50 times.
More like 100.
You knew all the answers.
So what?
Mrs. Turner doesn't know that, and now she never will. You're only hurting yourself.
The razzing. The looks. I just hate it. The seeing you with someone else.
Come here.
That's a good setup for an episode, but the way the episode plays out, it's less about Casey and what she's going through and more about how this interferes with Zach and Chloe's relationship. It's so weird. Like it's like this gives the show a chance to tackle something that's a really good issue to talk about, and they just don't do it right. They just yeah, it's not done as it should be. So they end up pairing that with, for just as an example, they pair that storyline with the character of Flipper having a crush on Ashley and trying to basically spend the whole episode trying to kiss her as part of a bet, like basically, um, trying everything he can to get her interested in him and it not working in all these comical ways. Like, and then having those two things paired together is just it just shows to me that they're not taking the issue seriously. They're pairing things. They're just trying to throw storylines and see what sticks. And, if you don't explore something fully or as well as you could, or even like in a good way, then everything's going to fall flat, both the serious and the more comedic storyline. Now, they did try to address other stories as well that, again, are more of the serious nature, and are less drama for the sake of drama. They tried to talk about teachers being inappropriate with students. They talked about gang violence. They talked about eating disorders. They talked about sexual assault. They talked about um, alcoholism, which we mentioned in the pilot. They talked about um, homelessness. They talked about all of these things and more. But again, a lot of the time, it wasn't done appropriately, or it wasn't done fully, or the focus wasn't on the character that was going through it, but rather how it, you know, how it got in the way of other characters' love lives or something weird like that. So they tried, but they need to decide what they want it to be and commit to that and commit to it fully. Are they drama for the sake of drama, something that's more akin to the OC, or are they going to deal with important issues as something that's more akin to My So-Called Life? You can't be My So-Called Life of the OC. You have to pick one and stick with it. And the show didn't do that. That's something that I think really, really hurt it. Um, Especially since, its pilot set up the whole idea of drama for the sake of drama. And then we weren't really given that. And then we were kind of stuck in the middle with things not fully explored on either side. Before I get into other things, I should probably mention how the show ends. Like, it literally has the main characters ride off into the sunset, or well, it's not really a sunset, but I think it's like metaphorically implied. Um, so as I mentioned, they talk about really serious issues. So towards the end of their 10 episode run, Nina is almost raped by someone at a party. At one point later on, Zach and Teddy see the guy, they get an argument with him, and they end up injuring him. I think he like falls down the bleachers. And instead of them dealing with this, like calling someone, calling a teacher, calling, 911 or whatever, they basically leave. They're like, we're gonna get in trouble, so we should just go. Eventually, Zach is wanted by police, so he goes to meets up with Chloe. Chloe at this point is in a clinic for an eating disorder. So Nina tells her what's going on. She gets out of the clinic, meets up with Zach, and they decide that they're just going to leave together. So they hop in his car and they drive down the road and they are gone. Instead of just, waiting for people to, like her mom or her brother or anybody else and dealing with this as they should, they literally drive off together into the metaphorical sunset.
And then I'm taking off.
You're running away? That's like admission of guilt.
Story of my life. Guilty until proven innocent.
But I'm going with you.
Chloe, I can't drag you into this.
I love you. And that's all that matters to me.
You sure about this?
No?
Neither am I.
Now, that aside, I will say that for the 90s, this is probably one of the more diverse teen drama casts I've seen. So kudos to the cast for that. Kudos to the creators. Kudos to everybody involved. Like this was actually really good to see. Um, but that aside, I think they just have way too many characters for this show. There are other dramas who've dealt with a huge cast, but I think because they didn't really know where they were going to go with it or how they wanted to approach things. A lot of characters just kind of seem to be underdeveloped and not fully explored, or they just don't seem like they have a lot to do. So, kind of hurt the show in a way as well. Additionally, there's two other things that I think really worked against Malibu Shores succeeding. And the first is time slot. So the show aired on Saturday nights, which is a big red flag. And red flags in the sense of you're not going to succeed because you're airing on the worst night of the week. If your main audience is teenagers, why would you air your show on a Saturday? That's so weird. Like most teens are not watching TV on Saturdays. Saturdays in the 90s were more reserved for like an older audience, people who were going to sit down and watch Cops or America's Most Wanted or reruns of something that had aired previously in the week. So I think if they had aired this show on another night, like even Sunday, I think it would have worked a lot better. If you put a show on a Friday or a Saturday on cable TV, especially at this time, you weren't going to get the audience. Um, so I don't know why they did this, but it didn't work. It was basically a death sentence for the show because no one's going to watch, no matter how good the show may be, because Saturday is not a good night. Additionally, a lot of what I saw from the show kind of reminded me a lot of Beverly Hills 90210. And yes, it came from Aaron Spelling, who produced that show, as well as millions of others. But it just seemed like a 90210 clone. Like we have a group of people, we have people who fit in certain stereotypes or certain characterizations. And it seemed very much like it was trying to be very, very similar to that with the large cast and, all of the characters and people coming from different backgrounds and the mean girl who's not really mean, but maybe has something else going on type of thing. And the sweet, innocent girl who's dating the bad boy. Again, all very similar to 90210. So I feel like it was too similar to that as well, which kind of hurt it. It didn't help it that they actually brought in two 90210 actors in very small roles. We had Brian Austin Green come in as Flipper's brother in episode 3, which I really thought was going to be a larger role, but he literally appeared in one scene and then left, um, which was very odd because I'm like, oh, Brian Austin Green's here. Okay, we're going to have an episode focused on Flipper and his brother and their, you know, the issues they have. But no, he's there and he's gone. So, okay. And then we also had Tori Spelling, whose appearance was hyped up in a promo. It's, um, apparently, I guess someone tell me if she was extremely popular at the time, but they were very much banking on people watching for Tori.
Beautiful, sexy, she's Tori Spelling.
Ooh, I like to do things I'm not supposed to do.
Tori on an all-new Malibu Shores, NBC Saturday.
But also, both of these appearances kind of reminded me of a show that was slightly better. Why would I watch these actors here when I can just turn on their show and see them there? So, it just reminded me of something that was slightly better. Um, I don't even know what else to add at this point. Like, the show had potential. Like I said, there were inklings of something that could have been good, whether they went one route or the other. But again, there was a lot of things working against it. But at least the show paved the way for Cordelia Chase and Felicity Porter to delight us and capture our hearts on much better shows, if anything.